Hello everyone, and thanks for joining me again. Today we're going to look at using a Gatsby theme. Gatsby themes are relatively new. Before, if you'd built a site with, if you'd built a Gatsby site, you probably used a starter from the starter library. There were many to use. For example, if you were going to build a blog, you could use this starter right here. And I think this was created by Kyle Matthews, who is, I guess, the creator of Gatsby. And actually, if you scroll all the way down to where the stars are, in single digits, you'll find my theme, or sorry, my starter. I've got a starter in the library now. It's basically a blog starter that you can use almost right out of the box. But I'm not here to promote my starter. I'm here to talk about Gatsby themes. So basically, with Gatsby themes, what makes it different from a starter is that you can publish it as an npm package, and then you can create a Gatsby site and install the package as a dependency. So whenever the author of the theme updates the package, that will be updated in your site as soon as you rerun an npm install, for example. So you can update the theme continuously. As to where with a Gatsby starter, once you forked off the original site and created your own, it was basically ejected. So you couldn't really get any more downstream updates. So anyway, what we can do is we can start off first by creating a simple Gatsby site, right? And you can call it whatever you like. We'll just call this one my site, right? And we'll navigate into that directory, and we'll initialize it. And I'm going to use Yarn. I recommend using Yarn just because if you're going to build a Gatsby theme on your own at some point, they use something called Yarn Workspaces, which is really nice, so you might as well get used to it now if you don't have it. And you can just install Yarn and start using it. It's pretty easy. So we'll go ahead and initialize this. Okay, let's make sure we have it in our workspace. Good. So we've got our package JSON here. There's nothing going on. We need to add some dependencies. So we'll go ahead and add those. We need to add React DOM, Gatsby. Now, we also need to add as a dependency the theme that we're going to use. And I've created an example theme and published it to npm already. Here it is right here. So this is basically a blog theme, and you can see that I haven't included a README yet, which I should do at some point in the very near future. But this is a blog theme so that you can add it to your Gatsby site and quickly have a blog that allows you to write posts using MDX. If you're not familiar with MDX, it's just basically a form of Markdown on steroids. You can use JSX in your Markdown. You can actually import React components, for example. It's really nice. So if you haven't used MDX yet, I definitely recommend that you look into that. And if you're going to be making a blog anytime soon, use MDX. It's really powerful. But for now, we'll install this as a dependency. All right. We're also going to need to use this package as a plugin in Gatsby. So what we'll need to do is create a file, a Gatsby config file. All right, good. And just like you would with your Webpack, module.exports. Define a field called plugins. All right, and this plugin is just going to be our plugin, our package, our theme package. All right, so at this point, if we try to run our site, now let's just do it and see what happens. Oh, and remember, if you're going to run your dev server for a Gatsby site, you'll want to install the Gatsby CLI. You can do that easily enough. You can just do yarn global add Gatsby CLI. All right, once you do that, you can just run Gatsby develop, and that'll run your site. Or sorry, that'll run your dev server. But we're getting errors here, and the reason we're getting these errors is, and these are all GraphQL errors, right? And the reason we're getting them is because we can't query the fields that we should be able to query in our blog posts, and our blog posts are MDX blog posts. Now, if you're not familiar at all with Frontmatter, this is just basically the kind of at the top of your markdown blog post where you include some metadata like your title, whether or not it was published, for example. And let me grab an example. Of that, just a moment. All right, almost there. All right, good. So you can see here that, sorry. You can see here that this is a markdown blog post. It's using an MDX file, not just a simple markdown file. So as I said, you can do more interesting things with MDX. But anyway, I'm rambling here. If you go up to the Frontmatter, at the top you can see that it contains information about the title, what the post tags are. For example, this one is, the labels are Gatsby and Jamstack. You can include information about the author and the date published, but basically your GraphQL query is going to look for those fields and to see if there are values in those fields, and if there are no values, then you're going to get a GraphQL error, and that's just the nature of GraphQL. And unfortunately, if you don't include some data right off the bat, your site's not going to run. So what we need to do is we need to include at least one blog post in our site. So that's what we're going to do. Now, when I tried to run, excuse me, when I tried to run this, the dev server using the Gatsby develop command here, what it did was it automatically created a folder called blog and another directory called posts, and these are both empty, and that's because I set the theme up to do that. Basically, the blog folder you won't be using, the blog theme itself, the Gatsby theme that I've published, it programmatically creates pages. So if you make some posts, it'll automatically create the post pages, and it'll create a post list for you, and it'll use this blog folder as its, kind of root folder. So don't worry about that. Posts is your source folder. This is where all of your source content is going to go, your data. And in this case, it would be the, for example, MDX files. So let's just grab one of those and put it in our source folder, posts. Okay, now we have some data to work with, and GraphQL should be able to make a successful query. So if we run Gatsby develop again, right, we see that no problem so far, and compiled successfully, which means that if we go to localhost 8000, if we go to localhost 8000, we'll see basically nothing. It'll be a 404. And that's because we don't have anything in the root to run yet. But if we go to, we don't have any files in the root of the package that we're telling Gatsby to use. So right now we have to go to blog. And if we do that, then we see we've got our theme with one blog post here. So it's working. Oops, sorry about that. Right, so you can click on an individual blog post, you can see it, and with this theme, basically in Gatsby you can include code block stylings with any Gatsby site. I mean, I think it's just built into Gatsby in general, but there's also a plugin called, I think, Gatsby Prismic, or Prism, Prism.js, and that will allow you to customize these code blocks a little bit more, give them better stylings. But this one is just the very basic one that's included. I've also got tags set up so that, any posts that have the Gatsby tag will get displayed. Any posts that have, say, for example, Jamstack. Right. So we can add a few more blog posts if we like. I've got one with a video in it. I'll just do one more here. Alright, so now we've got 4 posts. And the reason why you only see 3 is because I've also set this theme up to do pagination, right? Which means it displays, because of the way I've set it up, 3 posts per page. Right? And the reason that we do that is because if you have a lot of posts, you don't want to have to wait for all the posts to be loaded before you can actually interact with your post list page. You want to just click on a post and look at it right away. If you're only loading 3 at a time, you can at least look at the first page almost immediately rather than having to wait for thousands of posts to load. Right. Nice, like I said, the tags give you all the posts with certain tags. And here you can see that videos are nicely embedded with this theme. It's mobile responsive so that the video shrinks down nicely, and that's because there's a Gatsby plugin. It's like a responsive iframe plugin, and it allows it just basically makes it so that if you embed an iframe element into your markdown, then it'll automatically shrink it down to the appropriate size. So this is a nice mobile responsive blog theme. All right, and if I click on home, remember we have nothing, no files that we're telling Gatsby to use in the root, so we can create one now. So with Gatsby, and if you're familiar with Gatsby, then you know this, that it always looks in a pages folder for pages. Because, for example, with Create React App, if you want to have something like multiple pages, what it does is it makes your single page application look like a multiple page app. You have to use something like React Router. But Gatsby takes care of all the routing for you, so all you need to do is in your root, create a folder called Pages, but it needs to be in the source folder. So we'll create both of those now. All right, and if you create an index file in that Pages directory, then Gatsby will automatically grab that and put it in when you run. And it'll just take that as your root file and what to display when you go to the main page. So we'll just make a simple home page. Sorry, Butterfingers here. All right, so for example, the name of the theme, excuse me, is called Tech Blog, so we can just create this simple little landing page. All right, good. So now if we go to our root, all right, sometimes you have to shut down the server and rerun it to get it to work. Hopefully this works now. All right, there it is. So there's your home page. And also, if you try to run it and it just won't update, this is something that seems to be a little bit of a troublesome feature in Gatsby. What you can do is you can just run Gatsby Clean, and that'll clear the cache. And if it does that, it should be able, sometimes you have to do it twice, but if you do that, it'll usually fix things up for you. Okay, so like I said, if you add an index file into your pages folder and you keep that pages folder nested in your SRC, your source folder, then Gatsby will automatically grab that as your home page. And then still you have that functionality of the blog where I can go to my blog page. So that's nice, right? You can create a site and you can use as many themes as you like. Like, for example, this is my blog theme, but I can create another directory and call it images, and I can create like a photo gallery theme and I can import that. Or maybe somebody has already created it for you and you want to use that. But you might be thinking, okay, so you import these themes and you're kind of stuck with what you've got. How do you edit them? How do you customize them? Right? Well, you don't see in your directory here, your My Site directory, you don't see any list of components that you can go in and just edit, right? You would probably have to go into your node modules, go down to the package itself, right? And then maybe, for example, if you wanted to change a component, you can go into the header right here and you've got it. But if you change that and then you update the package at some other point, because there's a new version that came out, excuse me, then you lose all of those changes. That's pretty dumb, right? So there's something that's nice that you can add to themes is you can make the themes extendable so that users can customize them. So what we can do, and let me just get rid of some of these up here. All right, what you can do is you can go into your, let me save this here. You can go in and close these out. You can go into your source directory here and you can create a new directory, right? And that's going to be basically the plugin that you installed, the theme that you used, right? So in this case, it's going to be my theme, which was called Gatsby Theme Tech Blog. All right. So now you can see what it did is it created this kind of nested directory setup. So it created first your username or my username, followed by the Gatsby Theme Tech Blog directory. And in here, what we want to do is we want to cancel this code out here, right? We don't want to use this. We don't want to display the header that is currently being displayed, right? For example, we just don't like it when we want to create our own custom header. What we can do is we can go into the Gatsby Theme Tech Blog folder here, and we'll add a components folder because we're going to create new components, or at least one new one for this tutorial. And then here, for example, if we want to create our own header folder, we can do that, or our own header file, excuse me. Okay, now if you go to the Gatsby theme tutorial, right, they have an explanation of what's going on here. Right, there's something called Gatsby Theme UI, or it's just called Theme UI, and there's a Gatsby plugin that allows you to use it. And if you add that to a theme when you build it, when somebody uses that theme, they have the ability to customize the theme. Right, so in this case, they gave us some code just to cancel out all of the other code in a component. All right, and it's right here. All right, so for example, if I take this and I put it in my new component, the one that I'm using to override the old header. Okay. All right, let's restart the server. Sometimes this doesn't work. Sometimes it takes 2 or 3 attempts before the cache gets cleared and it finally accepts it. But let's try to run develop again and see if we can get rid of that header. Okay, but it did. It worked the first time. Basically, the header's gone now. You can see that we no longer have that header that was included in the theme. And, maybe I wanted to keep that header, but I just didn't want to keep the title. Right, so what I can do is I can go back and I can grab all the code from the original header, which, remember, I got by going into the node modules folder and then finding the package folder and searching out the component called header.js. Alright, so I'll go ahead and bring all that code into my customized header file. And then maybe I'll just change the name. Alright, I don't like the name tech blog, so I'll call it GraphQL Advocate, because that's the site I'm creating right now. Alright, also I don't have a nav bar yet, my own nav bar, and it doesn't recognize the other one anymore because we canceled that out. So we'll go ahead and remove that. The nav bar was just a set of links that I included in the theme. You probably wouldn't even need them, or you can just, edit the nav bar and add your own links in. Probably best for internal linking. Alright, so I've updated the theme. Okay, now you can see I've got the header back with just a different title. So just by doing that, I can customize the theme a little bit. And I can do that for all the components that are in the theme. Alright, so anyway, I hope that gave you a little bit of a helpful introduction to Gatsby themes. It basically gave you an idea of what they are and how to use them. And in the near future, I'll go ahead and put up a tutorial on how to create your own Gatsby theme. So thanks again for joining me as always, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.